Yeah. So. Hey guys, welcome to TalkSpace, a talk series by Vietnamese Startup Network in Europe. My name is An, your new host filling in for Ha today. And for our new audience, this is our 9th episode, and in every episode, we will try to introduce you to a startup founder to get to know their stories, why they're doing what they're doing, and hopefully they will inspire you in your own journey. And so this episode is also a collaboration with Hack4Growth, an international innovation contest organized by the Association of Vietnamese Scientists and Experts. So stay tuned for more episodes and check out vsne.net to check out our other projects. And today I would like to welcome our special guest, Đạt Trần, a seasoned technology and business leader and founder of Priceloop, also a mentor of Hack4Growth. Just a little reminder for our audience, please feel free to send your questions in the comment and we'll answer them in the Q&A section at the end of the show. And so without further ado, hi Dad. I know you're a busy guy, so thank you for taking your time to join us today. So first up though, could you please introduce yourself a little bit so that the audience can get to know you?
Yeah, of course. First of all, thanks for inviting me to the show. Even though I'm busy, I always like to share my experience so that other people can learn it from some way. So I mean, you already introduced me a little bit. So my name is Đạt. I'm currently the co-founder and CTO of Priceloop. And Priceloop is a price optimization software that it's a 7-month-old company now that I co-founded with Dr. Richard Schwenke, is my co-founder and basically my partner in crime for this new venture. Before he co-founded Priceloop, he was the managing director and co-founder of Contorion. Contorion is a very big, like 200 million euro e-commerce company now. And before co-founding Priceloop, I was at Axel Springer. Axel Springer is a very big media company. And at Axel Springer, I was heading the AI department, where my team was mainly focused on like a lot of voice topics, but also natural language processing. And before Axel Springer, I used to be at Idealo. Idealo is a price comparison website here. And I was co-heading the data team, so responsible for business intelligence, for analytics and data. And before that, I started my career at Accenture as a consultant, and basically kick-offing my career. This is, I think, a short introduction about myself. I think you can ask more questions, more details if you want to know more, right?
Yeah, I honestly I gotta say that I'm really impressed with your work experience. I mean, I checked your LinkedIn, but I didn't stalk you. But it seems like you have a lot of projects going on at the moment. So yeah, but what are the main projects that you're doing right now? Like Priceloop, right?
Yeah. Can you repeat your question again? I didn't get the last sentence.
Yeah, sorry. I guess it's just a bit of like hiccup in the internet. So could you like right now, what is your main project, Priceloop, right, that you've been working on for almost a year now?
My main project, what I do at Priceloop now, I mean, the company I started like very fresh, right? So 7 months ago, actually, or maybe a little bit longer. So basically, Rich and me met in I think around June, July, right? We had a kind of a talk about hey, what you can do with pricing. And because the funny story is, so he's how did we come up with this idea? So he basically he was the managing director at Control, and he started that pricing department at Control. And basically pricing got a lot of kind of like impact on Control, right, on the revenue side as well. And we had a discussion about that, and I realized that, yeah, of course, I mean, pricing. I mean, I studied business at this kind of software is very important. And then I realized, okay, if you can take it to this, right, and offer this to businesses, this will be like very, very cool, right? And so that's why what we would at that time, I was talking with Richard, and I was like, wow, cool. And I'm at that time I knew that Richard was actually leaving Control, because he got his first baby, so he took some paternity leave, right? And I was like also about to leave Axel Springer, because I was in a corporate for quite a while, and I wanted to return basically to more entrepreneurial startup life, because actually I think we will come to this later, but I come from a very entrepreneurial background, and I wanted to experience that fast speed changing again. And then around August or something, it was like decided that we're going to do that, right? And then actually it was quite fast, so I resigned. Actually, you have like 3 months probation time, but so some of them shortened it, but I think I was out September, the same time as Richard. It was kind of weird, because usually someone is like go out of the company earlier or later, but we were out at the same time. And then at that time, we also pitched for like an accelerator, so reactor. So this is like a pre-seed accelerator that gives you also equity, and then we got in, and then from there also we decided to start a company very fast. So at that time we realized, okay, we had competitors, like but not like these big competitors, right? And then that's why we decided then is okay. If we're going to just work with two of us, right, it's going to take very, very long, right? And Richard and me, we already had traction, right? So that means what we did is we created a PowerPoint presentation, which was really nice. I mean, both of us can do it, right? And Richard probably better than me, because he used to work at McKinsey for a long time. So he used to be a management consultant, and they are very good at doing this PowerPoint presentation. And then we had old connections that we still had, right, from VCs and angel, also friends. And then we pitched them the idea, what we wanted to do. And then actually we within 2 weeks we actually closed our first funding round. So that was quite fast. And then so we registered the company I think around November, and we got our first employee in December already. So that was also quite luck, because I already had like someone that I knew from the past, and he was actually looking for something, right? And then we had also Richard's connection as well. And then in January we already had 2 more employees. So actually from October to January, we already we had 3 people, plus us 2 co-founders. And the last couple of months, what we've been working on was on our MVP. So we built a first MVP version of our product, which actually looks quite nice for the short time that we actually spent onto it. We basically closed first customers who would like to work with us and do testing. And also at that point, what my main focus is to understand where actually we are going to with our next product, right? Because Priceloop started as I would say, AI-focused software company. But actually, the more we think about it, the more we want to go into more like software AI company, right? So software first, right? And AI is a component that help our customers to improve their pricing. And pricing is a decision, right? So and for people who understands what pricing means, so pricing is actually you are faced with pricing decisions every day for every businesses, right? Let's say you go on Amazon and you need to buy some products, right? And these products, they have a certain, and usually how do you set the price, right? So typically how you can set the price in order, if you say I bought I don't know, this product euro, right, at maybe 10% on top of this unit cost, right? So it's 55 euro. So this is pricing, but actually the question is cheaper, right? Can you basically sell for 60 euro instead of 55 euro, right?
Yeah. So like,
yeah, so you mentioned like, at the moment my main focus.
Yeah, sorry, because it was lacking in the internet. But you mentioned that this is like a startup like founded by two guys, and now it's growing, right? So how big is the team right now?
So at the moment we are 9 people plus us two co-founders. So we are 11 people already now. So it's growing. It's big now. It's bigger than what actually we thought, but it's actually in terms of a business plan.
And so you mentioned that you have some competitors in the market already, right? So what actually sets Priceloop apart from your competitors? Like how could you convince like other businesses to join Priceloop, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to, say that our competitors are bad or something. Like maybe they're working on the same thing, but what set us apart is that we are very driven, by engineering. So what I want to create is basically a company where the best engineers, the best talent, who will work on that problem. We have a couple of USPs, right? So we don't think into hey, this is, I mean, some companies, they rather think as a more consultancy business, right? So you start a startup and then you, what you want to do is you want to first sell your first product, right? And then sometimes what happens is that you are more a consultancy company, right? So you build a little bit of software, but then, the software is just like, you need to modify a lot through it, right? You need to tune it a lot, right? And there are companies like this. And then there are companies who try to create a platform, right? But maybe this platform is still not like, as flexible as possible, right? Or it's very hard to integrate. And our goal is actually, to build a platform in the future, right? Where we actually support our customer, right, with pricing decisions and based on data, right? And so far, not a lot of people are doing this. So you actually you can convince people just to use our platform, because many people are still using Excel sheets, right, or Google Sheets to do their pricing. So there's already added benefit on top of this, right? And then, of course, in the future, I mean, we already developed some machine learning models, right, which is working much better than probably the competitors. But I bring in a lot of experience, like from the machine learning side, right, that will also, help on that in the future.
So, like now that the product is in the market for almost a year now, so can you say that you're satisfied with the work that you've put in, like together with your team? Like, are you satisfied with the progress of the company right now?
Yeah, I mean, I would say my blood pressure is lower than in the beginning, right? Because when you start a startup, I mean, depends on what you do, right? Richard and me, we don't get any salary, right? So which means we are working for free for a long time, putting actually our everything that we do into Priceloop. And and when you think about when I think about Priceloop now, I have a much better feeling about Priceloop, right? A much better understanding of where it can go, right? And how big it can go, right? And that's why we're hiring, right? So we're hiring data engineers, we're hiring software engineers. So basically, in the audience, if you know people, who like to work or would like to be in that space, we're always looking for tech people now, right? And as of now, I'm more confident, with that. We have a good basis for the future, right? We have a good plan for the next step, right? Because we will have more, I would say, financing rounds in the future, right? And people will ask, so what do you want to use that money for, right?
Right.
I have a much better feeling about this now. And I learned over the 7 to 9 months a lot, So I learned how things are working with the team, right? I mean, I had to create the team. We're hiring also HR to create the culture. We learn a lot through our customers, right? So what our customers want at the end of the day. So there's a lot of learnings, right? And for me now is to take this learning, right, and basically make use of it for the future going.
You're actually one step ahead of me, because I know that Priceloop is recruiting people right now, so I was using it as a hook for our audience right now. But yeah, so Priceloop is recruiting right now, guys. So if you want to apply, check out Priceloop fan page to get more information. But yeah, so one more question is that as it's growing right now, so where do you see Priceloop will go in the next few years, like 5 years, for example?
I repeat the question again.
Yeah, sorry, I guess it's still a bit lacking. But yeah, I mean, with the growth of Priceloop right now, right? Yeah, can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Can you repeat it again?
Yeah, so my question is that with the growth of Priceloop right now, yeah. Sorry, just the internet is a bit lagging. So can you still hear me?
Give me 1 minute.
Yeah.
Give me
sorry
one
about
minute.
this.
Change a little bit with my.
Yeah. No worries.
So
yeah. Yeah, just for the audience, this is a very common problem in Berlin these days. Our internet just get pretty unstable. So yeah, for those of you who are interested in Hack4Growth, and for Hack4Growth, it is an internationally innovation contest organized by the Association of Vietnamese Scientists and Experts. So the deadline of the registration is 31st of May. So please hurry up. Yeah, just take time to introduce a bit about Hack4Growth.
I think the internet is better now. I had to remove the router, so it was not really using my internet. Weird. Okay.
Okay, but you got me now, right? Is it clear now, or? Yeah, I don't see any.
Yeah, it's much better now.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So just back to the question of Priceloop. It's just that, like you say, it's growing right now, right? So where do you see it will go in the next 5 years?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I cannot forecast the future, but obviously, I'm building a company that someday, hopefully, it will be in the same league as companies, for example, like SAP or Salesforce, right? So, of course, when you do a startup, right, your goal is to build a unicorn, right? And my goal is, and Richard and me, we are quite ambitious people, right? So, our goal, of course, is to make it as successful as possible. And obviously, we are creating a company, obviously not, just for both of us, right? Because to be honest, Richard probably also doesn't. He sold the company, like Controlling, right, for a lot of money already, right? I myself, I will also say that I'm don't need to work that much in a way, but it's more about like we want to create something, that is. I would say, greater than us in a way, right? So and something that we want to do in the future, where we say we come in the place where people like to work for that place, right? So this is so my 5 years plan, obviously, is manifold, right? So obviously, of course, increasing the valuation of the company, but also, of course, primarily, creating one of the best software company for pricing.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously, I agree. Like, the environment is really important too. But like, I would like right now we have so many side projects. So how much time do you actually invest in like Priceloop right now? Like, how do you manage your time?
I mean, a day has 24 hours. Obviously, in a startup, you don't spend like 8 hours just on the startup, right? Like, but I mean, it depends. Some days I don't need to spend a lot, right? Because I have very good employees that I can trust, that they will deliver the work. But sometimes, like for example, on Tuesday we went live with the project because on Wednesday we had a customer demo, right? And something wrong. Obviously, we could not finish at 5 or 6, but our working session ended at 9. Right? That happens in the startup, and that will also happen in companies because at the end of the day, you need to deliver, right? You need to basically deliver what you promise the customer, because in the early stage you need to do that, right? So I would say that so we are not overworking, so we don't spend like 120 to 200 hours just working on the startup. So that's not it.
Yeah, I mean, like I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs. It seems like balancing the workload is they find it pretty difficult to balance it, and it seems like you're doing it pretty good. Like just balance work and life as well. So, but Priceloop is definitely not your first project, and like I say, I look at your working experience. So your first working experience was with your family business, right? And also after you graduated, you also worked in you hold a lot of key position in different companies. For example, at Accenture, Idealo. So did the experiences like help you in your startup journey, and in what ways did they help you?
Yeah, so I would say every career step that I made was for a certain reason, right? So I never I never changed my career, for example, just for money. I never did that. So that was something that I never did. So my first job was at my family's place. So we so at that time we had with my sister and my brother-in-law started the first restaurant. So it's called C Restaurant. It's in Charlottenburg. And I used to work there for a while when I was 18, 19. But then when I graduated from high school, I started to work there for half a year because I didn't know what to study, right? So and at that time, basically, we opened a new branch in Spandau, so it's in another Berlin district. And at that time, it was quite new, and my parents were really quite inexperienced in managing like a restaurant, right? Because they obviously they work in a small kind of like it's called Imbiss here in Germany. So it's like a small diner. Yeah, it's a small diner. But it was not like a big restaurant, right? And over the couple of years, basically, I started to manage it more, also from the service level and all this stuff. And it was kind of challenging for me because you know how Vietnamese are, right? Especially when you're older.
Yeah.
Older people always just say that, hey, you got to listen to me, because I'm older than you. You when you are just young, you come in. You don't have anything to say, right? It's a culture.
Yeah, they're not open to changes. That's why, right?
Yeah, it's a culture, and I think at this early age, I also learned myself to basically, no, I am the boss, right? So you need to listen to what I say, right, and not just think, oh, I'm young, I'm inexperienced, I don't have anything to say. And then also during the time, I interned a lot at at some investment banks, right? So actually, my original plan was not, being in a tech company. So originally, I actually desired to be an investment banker. So I worked in a couple of investment banks like Deutsche Bank and like also US Bank, like Jefferies. And I went through all the different departments, like from global markets, so trading, to equity research, to asset management, and also to merchant acquisition, so M&A. And during all those times, of course, what I learned the most was I don't really like to work in that field because in investment bank, usually like in M&A, you work like 100 hours a week, right? So that was super challenging for me. And then I moved on and started again in Berlin because I realized that I didn't want to do that. And then I did an online course about machine learning. And then I fell in love, with this topic because I thought, wow, that must be the future. Because I was reading a lot, right? Like at the time, and I saw that, wow, in Germany there's nothing, Europe there's nothing, but in the US, it's already been there for 2-3 years. So that must be something, that I need to go in, right? And then I joined Accenture at that time. And so I was looking for a position where I actually, can apply this kind of things because at Accenture they open a position, just to do that, and that was quite nice. And then I stayed at Accenture for 1 year, but I realized, wow, okay, being a consulting company is nice. You learn a lot to talk, and you learn to do presentation. Yeah. I knew how to do presentation really well. I was in an investment bank in M&A. So what you do is you do a presentation all day long, right? And and then I said, okay, but I really need to learn, how to, the tech component and to program well. And then I decided to join Pivotal. So luckily, I still had a very good friend who joined Pivotal 1 year ago. So we graduated at the same year. And then I joined Pivotal. So it was quite nice because Pivotal is a US software company. I would say they are still they have still one of the best engineers in the world, right? So I learned a lot about engineering, all the stuff like around that, for example, test-driven development, pair programming, I learned all the buzzwords, right? But also how to use it. So that was that was nice. And then I stayed there for 2 years, but I realized, okay, I never worked actually for a German company, right? And how do you basically, how can I change like a company and basically also, of course, during my pivot time, I learned or started to manage some people already, or basically learn how to do that. But then I saw myself, you need this, right? You need that experience. You need that experience basically to manage people, right? And then I applied for Idealo after 2 years. And in Idealo, it was a funny story because actually I applied for a position that was asking for 8 years of working experience. And at that time,
okay. So how did you get around that?
Well, I just applied, so
okay.
so I only had like 3 years of working experience at the time, and sorry, I'm still have a little bit of cold.
Okay.
And then at the time I was like, yeah, okay, then let's just apply, right? Luckily, they liked my CV, so the 1 week later after I applied, the CTO called me and said, yeah, we like your CV. Today we had a talk. And then I had a chance to basically to get an interview with the CTO and the CEO. And then they realized, wow, cool. What I want to do is really nice, right? And they, but unfortunately at the time, or what I say, unfortunately, I got the position, right? But I'm just talking about the whole story. So unfortunately, they said, okay, we have another candidate who is also fitting into that position. And we're actually only looking for one because at Idealo, they have this like double heads, right? Like head of product and head of technology, but there actually we had 3 people. And then, but still, so they still gave me another chance. I had the chance to pitch my ideas to also the managing director, so he was joining the session as well. And then afterwards, they said, okay. Okay, maybe we don't do just double heads, but we do like 3 heads, right? So and then I got that basically that chance, and I think my 2 years at Idealo afterwards, when I look back, was super successful, because I hired like entire team, right? I built up an entire team. with the ideas and with the projects that I set in. My first year, the team that was creating it made additional 1 million euro for Idealo, right? And over the last 2 years, with the system that we just integrated, made every cumulative made around 6 million euros, right? For which is quite nice, in terms of experience.
Yeah, that's impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, but then after 2 years, then I realized, okay, it's nice that I did it for this small company. I mean, it was not small. Idealo was already 800 people company.
Yeah.
But then I realized I want to change. I want to do more. I want to transform a corporation. And that's why I'm very bold, so I don't really care whether I'm talking to a management board or whatever, right? So I just wrote one of the board members at Axel Springer, right? So Stephanie Kasper, she at that time was basically responsible for news media and also the e-commerce side. And then I wrote her, and then 2 days later she wrote, of course, let's chat, So and 2 weeks later, I prepared a pitch what I wanted to do, in my next step, it took quite a while. So it took like 2 months, before I got the budget. But then after I got the budget, basically I could do what I wanted to do at Axel Springer as well. And then and then after I stayed for a while, of course I realized, I mean, there's a reason why a corporation is a corporation, right? It's not a startup, right? So I always knew that, okay, my next goal is not to stay there forever, right? But my next goal is to do the next step, right? Because in a corporation, when you do the next step, you progress very slowly, or it's very political, right? So corporations is all about hierarchies, right? It's about who you know, and it's also about basically waiting, right? Well, sometimes backstepping. This is also the case, right? And I always thought, okay, this is not something for me. I just want to, progress in my career without, having this thing, but rather, be in a setting where I really would like to create a better culture for my own company, right? And for my own team, and without having the restriction of asking for budget, asking for approval, but rather, making my own decisions, right? And then I decided to do Priceloop, right? So basically, I could have stayed at the job, which was really well paid, right? So it's not like, I needed to go off, or I was basically fired, right? But I went on my own. And
but you're still basically the advisor, right?
Yeah, so I'm still be part of Axel Springer. So so for example, if they still need something from me, in terms of technology or decisions, I'm on very good terms with Axel Springer. It's also very nice on my last day when I resigned. Basically, so the CEO of Axel Springer, Matthias Döpfner, wrote me in a mail, like personally, that. Hey, it's so sad to see you go, but it's good that you're doing this. We stay in contact. So
that's cool. Yeah.
And this is coming from the CEO of Axel Springer, right? So it's not like so it's also really nice, that someone appreciates what you've been doing for the company, because I put a lot of I would say my heart into what I did, right?
Yeah, actually listening to your stories, like I've got myself 2 lessons. Like the first one is that actually like getting the exposure to like different fields, different organizations, you kind of know what you want to do. For example, you said that you don't like a layer of bureaucracy, right? So I assume right now with your startup, I guess it's more like flat hierarchy, right? So it's get like decision making very fast. And also like another lesson I learned is that be bold in your decisions. Like if you have an idea, just pitch it, be confident. And who knows what it might lead to, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, when they graduate or when they study, they have a lot of expectation, right?
Right.
They need to do this, and maybe also the parents tell them, hey, you need to be successful in doing this and that, right? I mean, come on, Asian parents
Yeah, I guess I don't want to like stereotype, but actually it's the truth, right? I guess a lot of our audience can relate. Like growing up, our parents have a lot of expectation for us, like, oh, you have to be successful, you have to be a doctor and lawyer, right? So yeah, but I guess what you're doing is really bold, like to try to get the exposure and like try to actually figure out what you really want to do, you know. And so yeah, but that's bring us to a question. So like you say, like starting your own business is actually one of your goals, right? And just give a little context for our audience. So before we have this conversation, we have a little chit chat. And you know that you strike me as a go-getter from the very first time that we talked, in a good way. I mean, I feel like you know what you want to do and you go after it. Personally speaking, like I'm really not good at like setting my goals, and sometimes I find it very difficult to like following through the plans, you know. So do you have any advice, like for example, like how do you set your goals, or what do you do to achieve those goals?
I mean, it's very hard to learn this kind of things, right?
Yeah,
because
I've failed so many times. So
I mean, for example, Richard and me, or I would say sometimes you have a characteristic of people who are like this, right? So because I mean, I you know, when I lead people, right, or manage people, I know that people have different mentalities, and some people are very just driven, like, you know, driven for something. And I would say I'm driven for this because I'm a perfectionist, which means I want to achieve everything as successful as I want to do, right? So for example,
right.
when I play, like I used to play soccer, right? Obviously some people just play for fun, you know, but when I play, I want to win. Right?
Right.
Or similar, like, you know, for games, like my family, we used to play Monopoly a lot, right? So actually, you know, it was given to me by, you know, by playing these games, you know, always this competition.
Okay.
Right? So I'm very I'm a very competitive person, which means, you know, if there is something, you know, where you can win or lose, right? Obviously I try to win. And obviously, you know, even card games, I mean, you know, Asians are gamblers, right? So
Right.
that means also I don't play to lose, right? I play to win. And obviously, you know, this plays in a lot of I would say my mindset, right? So if you, I mean, you can learn how to structure goals, right? This is more like, you know, like a to-do list, right? But other than that, it's about mentality, you know, about actually your upbringing, right? Like how you grew up. You grew up in a setting where basically this is not something, you know, people want to do, right? Then obviously, you know, you will grow up more, okay, I will just be fine with a normal job, you know, 9 to 5, and do this. But honestly, this is fine. You know, some people are very happy about this, right? And some people are very happy, you know, when they do the next step, you know, when they grow and when they do this and that, right? You know, obviously, you know, I would be like, to be honest, not good for me to give general advice, you know, how to become more like me, right? But I would rather say maybe inspiration, right? And then take your own way, right? Take your own path, right? Because my path is something that you might not be able to reproduce, right? And it's fine, right? Because you will be more happier with your path, right? Than I chose my path. Something I'm happy with my path, but maybe other people will not be happy with my path as well, right?
But so like, let's say you have a goal, so you would just like strictly follow every step to get there, or would you be more flexible about it?
Can you repeat this again?
No, it's just like out of curiosity, like so let's say you have a goal and you have like different steps to get there, so you would follow through them strictly, or would there be like some kind of flexibility?
No, obviously. No, obviously. So I would obviously not basically, if I have a call, I break it down into, you know, like little steps, right? And then, you know, I take one step ahead. I learn from this step, right? And then, you know, I move into another step, right? Obviously, I plan on the step ahead, but these steps might change. You know, And this is actually what also I would say is very important to become an entrepreneur, right? Entrepreneur means that basically you have a goal, you want to do something, you have a plan, but along this plan there will be a lot of obstacles, right? So there's no linear way, there's not a straight line that you're going, but you will go to the side sometimes, you will go back sometimes again, right? And then you go forward, right? But the most important thing is just to do it, right? Because if you always think about going straight, you might run into a wall, right? So for example, if you start a company and then this company is not going well, but you really believe in the idea, right? Because you think that your plan is perfect, you might run into like a big wall where where you need to recover again.
Right. So on a more personal note, so have you actually ever been in a situation like where you set a goal and you failed to reach it? And what was the outcome of that situation? If you want to share with us.
I think I have a lag again.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah. I think I have a lag again. So let me
Okay.
Is it better now? Oh wait, no, it's better.
Yeah, can you hear? Can you still hear me? I mean, it's working for me now.
Okay, now it's working. I didn't get the last question.
Oh yeah, it's just like on a more personal note, have you actually ever set a goal and actually you failed to reach it? Because you seems like a perfectionist, right? But I guess there's some times where you actually fail, and so if that ever happened to you, and what was the outcome, and how did you solve it?
I mean, to be honest, I failed all the time. it's it's not, for example, this is the interesting thing, usually people don't talk about failures, right? Because only obviously the success is on the outside. But in terms of failure, I always had failure. So for example, when I was 21, 22, I applied, for example, so my goal was I really want to work for Goldman Sachs. That was at that time the major investment bank, right? And obviously, I applied, right, in my first semester, and I thought, okay, yeah, man, you're young, you're spirited, you're motivated, you need to get in, right? And you will get in.
Right.
But then obviously, first 2 weeks later, rejection, right? And then you apply for another banks, and rejection, right? Was not really easy, when you're young, you're very, you don't like to lose, right?
Right.
And then you get rejected, right? But then I realized, okay, maybe I'm still too inexperienced, right? First semester, maybe try it with something smaller, right? So in the second semester, I did a small internship at a smaller bank, and then in the third semester, I reapplied, right? And I got an interview, so basically at Goldman Sachs, and I actually succeeded. So I was still like, so I still didn't succeed in what I wanted to be in. But then I also realized at the time, investing is not something that I really wanted to do, right? And then I realized, okay, let's move on along the side. But what I learned from that story, right? You have failure, but you need to stand up again, right? And basically, not basically give up, right? But basically, hey, it's okay to fail, but learn from this failure and improve this, right? Because over the time, when I applied, I basically deviated from my CV, right? So I made my CV better, I made my cover letter better, right? And improved it so that basically, the success rate of getting a job, was easy for me. And actually, after the fourth semester, I understood very easily what HR are looking at into CVs, right? So it took me like kind of like 4 semesters, during university to understand iteratively and to tweak my CV over the time, right? And the similar things, I'm doing it on my jobs right now, right? You always have failures. You will have failures in projects and so on. But the most important thing is, you gotta learn from this, right? And then basically do it in some way so that the next project will be successful.
Yeah, I guess that's the attitude, right? I mean, like, you learn from your failure, and you actually have to accept that you fail, and you learn from it, right? And also, like, when the door is closed, there's there's other doors, there's other opportunities. So yeah, there's no point just like sulking, you know, in the failure, like not doing anything about it. But yeah, go ahead if you want to share more. Yeah. Okay. But thanks for sharing with us your personal stories, and that's kind of like the first part of our show, like when we get to know you as a business and a technology leader. So moving on to the next part, we actually learn more about you as a mentor, because apart from your startup, I know that also that you dedicated your time to mentoring other businesses in startup and AI products, right?
Yeah.
And you're also like the mentor for Hack4Growth last year and also this year. But first, kind of back to Priceloop a little bit. So you were a mentee in an acceleration program, right? So could you share with us the experience during that program of you as a mentee? So why did you join the acceleration program in the beginning, and what did you gain from the program?
So I was part of this acceleration program called Reactor Berlin, which is like a pre-seed accelerator program, and basically it was a nice program because you get actually some funding. So every founder get like 2,000 euro per month for 6 months, right? And you get support actually also from mentors and experienced founders as well. But of course obviously we didn't apply like Richard and me because of the mentorship, right? So we actually applied because we wanted to be in a position where other startups are into the same position as us, so that because they are doing the same thing, that will keep us having the same spirit at the same time, right? So because I think more as terms of like a team, when different teams are working the same thing, right? You have a much more different motivation, right? Oh, they are also working, a lot, and in the direction, I also need to keep up with this. And basically, in terms of mentorship, what you asked, I think it was not so much that we learned, to be honest, because that is my co-founder is very experienced because he already co-founded Controrian, right? So we had a very smooth process into creating our company. So we had our lawyer ready in 2 weeks, so we just transferred the money for our legal entity, so everything was done. Even the VC money, we had already the contracts ready. So okay, please transfer the money in there. And then also we have experience already, right? So we are experienced people. I already also created teams, so I know how like a working contract should look like. How I basically manage the visa process and recruitment. So I also like we are on a high level position already, so we know. We made a decision concerning what products, how we should structure the product and so on. So I think that's why the mentorship didn't help us a lot. Some sessions were really good, so we really like it because it was like a refreshment of like topics like customer like design thinking and so on, right? But also understanding the customers, asking the right questions. So some of this product related like sessions were really good. But other than that, it was not really super helpful for us.
Right, but it was just the mentor during the acceleration program, right? Or did it also help you, for example, like in this phase as well, or it's just during the acceleration program? Can you hear me, or is it still like a lag?
Maybe my internet is gone again. Can you repeat it? Wait.
No, I was just asking regarding your mentor. Was it just during the acceleration program?
Yeah.
Is it working now?
Yeah, it's working. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, just a question about your mentor. Like, was it so your mentor to play a role during the acceleration program, or do you have a mentor like during the phase of, like the current phase of your company, or are you just like in charge of everything?
No, we don't have any mentors doing like for our startups. But what we have is, of course, like partners or angel investors, right? Who basically give us advice, right? And of course, we are experienced people. That's why we're always talking about with other people. And I would say mentorship is everywhere. Like in a certain word, you always you are the mentee, right? In some other fields, you are the mentor, right? So when I'm asking, someone experienced like myself, I'm more the mentee, right? But we don't have this regular mentee mentorship somehow.
Yeah. So yeah, you say you have played both roles as a mentee and also a mentor. So in your opinion, like how important is mentorship to is mentorship important for founders and startups?
Yeah, definitely. So I think one of the most critical part in that area is especially for foreigners, right? I have a German citizenship and I grew up here in Germany, but I would say that most people here who grew up, right, and if they didn't grow up with, for example, with an entrepreneur family or got this experience through like your job or in some way, you need someone to guide you, right? You need someone who would basically gives you a little bit of inspiration, because actually to be successful in a job, right, sometimes it's not just because you need to be good, right? Like I would say looking good on paper. Like looking good on paper is like having good grades, right? But sometimes it's more about like having the right tip, right? Knowing the right people, sometimes, right? And a mentorship, depends, right? So if that mentor doesn't give you all the stuff, right, then you won't get any benefits out of it, right? But a good mentor, will lead you in some way. And actually, to be honest, all of my managers, like in the past, from Accenture to Pivotal, to even to Idealo and Axel Springer, all the people who were above me or like all my peer colleagues, were always my mentor in some way, right? Because some people, I always inspired to be in a way, right? And at the end of the day, I took like a mixture of what I wanted to be, and this is actually what mentorship gives you. Mentorship is actually giving you a direction and inspiration, right? And usually here, people usually don't get this inspiration, right? Or they don't get the motivation, especially when you grew up in I would say in an Asian family, right? So your inspiration is mostly con phải học giỏi để mai sau còn
their parents, right? Telling you that.
And you have to be like, as you said, right? You have to be a lawyer or like a doctor, right? But no one would tell you, create your own business. When you fail, it's fine. Stand up. They will not tell you this. They will just tell you how joy, because you need to earn money, and have a family and a family, right? They will not tell you go out and fail. They will not tell you this.
Yeah, I guess it's just like, as parents, like they always want their children to have like security, right? So back to like our parents' generation, that's the thing they're usually thinking of, like security, right? So they don't really think of like, starting your own business. But I guess like with us, the younger generation right now, we're more bolder and we also have more opportunities to actually like start our own business, right? But just to go back on your question about mentor, like you said, like you have a lot of inspiration from your mentors, right? Or your leaders. So in your opinion, what makes a good mentor? Like what qualities do they have to be like a good mentor?
It's the same small question when you would ask what makes you a good leader in a way, right? There's a lot of overlap or something. I would say the most important criteria is someone who would listens, right? So this is always listens to you, and a good criterion of a mentorship is not forcing you to do something, right? But more like giving advices on what you would like to do, and more on basically tips, right? So that you can say someone who would motivates you, and this is actually a good leader, right? That's why I say these two are very similar, because a good leader will motivate you and will give you inspiration, right? A mentor should do the same. And obviously, I mean, I think the question also depends on what you want from a mentor, right? So if you want a job, obviously you would like to have a mentor who is like working for a big company already and has a lot of jobs that he knows it's open. If you want to start a startup, you want to have a mentor who knows a lot of investors, right? Because then, hey, can you connect me with that person, right? So obviously there's a lot of I would say you need to ask yourself what you want from a mentor, right? And then, and then you can say, okay, this is what a good mentor needs to have.
Yeah, right. I guess like mentor can benefit a lot from having a good mentor, like like you say, like asking the right kind of questions so that they could like exceed. But yeah, let's bring us to your job, like your new position, like as a mentor in the upcoming Hack4Growth. So you're gonna be again in the mentor team, and so what's your motivation being a mentor again for this program?
Yeah, I think so. So why am I actually mentoring or also being part of like hackathons, right? So I think my goal is always to learn, right? I always like to see what other teams are doing, what other people are doing, because I always want to connect it with people, and also it's very refreshing for me to see people with ideas, right? And also obviously I have still kind of my Vietnamese heritage in a way, right? So obviously, I mean, I have a lot of experience, right? And if that somehow contribute back to Vietnam, right? To the birthplace of my parents, right? Then then obviously it would help me, not help me, but more like give me a better perspective on, hey, wow, I mean, my roots are Vietnamese, right? So that means I'm connected to it somehow.
Yeah, I mean, like it's not just mentees learn from mentors, right? I mean, it's also like an exchange. Like mentor also sometimes learns from mentee as well. So, but what are your expectations for the team that you would mentor during this program? Like, do you have any expectation?
Yeah. So my expectation obviously is that the team is delivering, right? So that so basically it's a structured way, basically where hey, they're looking for they're asking the right questions, right? And with this right question, they can do something out of this, right? So this is for me the most important thing, because I'm also like doing mentorship for like Springboard, which is like this educational program. And at the end of the program, my mentees, they always, for example, like have a certain capstone project, right? And it's really good, right? And this is what I also expect from the team that I want to that I will mentor in the future. That they are driven and that they they are structured in some way and they want to deliver something, right? And obviously be successful at the end of the day, because the thing is, you have to see, when you mentor someone, you have to dedicate time, right? And as you said at the beginning, my time is limited, right? And if I spend that time carefully, I want to have an outcome out of this.
But so, and because the Hack4Growth is still in the registration period right now, do you have any advice for the competing teams, like to pass the first round with their proposal?
Yeah, I mean, I think many people, when they write a proposal, what they're not good at is basically like the pitch, So sometimes people are creating pitch decks or pitches that are not really well, not really convincing, because it's not really they don't have a structured way of basically conveying the ideas, right? And actually. They need to really improve on this kind of things. And this is actually my only tip, basically, to ask like someone more experienced or like a friend before to go through the deck again, and and whether they really understand what you want to convey, right, as a message.
All right, so like just practicing as well. And also, like, do you think communication is also like getting the idea across is also like a factor?
Yeah, so obviously, for example, some teams they're struggling with English, right? And me, I'm not good at Vietnamese, right? So obviously there are communication issues between me and the team, right? And but I must say, English at the moment is like the primary language, right? It's also the language that my team is speaking. So I think also in the future, if Vietnam wants to play like an important role in the world, especially in the tech space, English is very important. For example, I think about Korea, right? So in Korea, usually, I mean, what they do is when they, for example, teach English or learn English, sometimes you have native speakers coming to the country, right, for a year, and then they teach it to the kids, right? Vietnam language is such an important tool, right? And English is really a dominant factor into that, and that's why I say everyone in Vietnam, needs to step up onto that as well.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I also think that actually, like, English is getting to be like a second language in Vietnam. Like, I mean, like, it's widely taught in a lot of schools in Vietnam right now. So I guess like Vietnamese are also like catching up with the international market by honing their English as well. But yeah, thank you for sharing your tips, Đạt. Just a little reminder for our audience, the registration deadline is 31st of May. So hurry up, and if you're lucky, you could be one of that mentees. Then the link to the registration can be found in the comment section. And so thank you for sharing your experience. Now we move to the Q&A section. And thank you, our audience, for sending their questions. So we have 2 questions right now. So yeah. So the first question from Hack4Growth. You said you landed a job which required 8-year experience when you only had 3-year experience. What made the managers hire you? Which factors make young professionals stand out among experienced candidates? That's a good question.
Yeah. I mean, I once talked to him about this, right? Because he and me were on really good terms. I mean, you made that point already, right? That point was about boldness. So I think the crucial factor for him was that I was bold enough, right, to want to say what I want, and I was very clear about my ideas, right, and what I want to change. So if you are looking for this kind of job positions, right? So this is what I also say, to give it like a general tip. Don't apply for job description just because it says what it says, right? But imagine what you can do, right? So what is your role and what do you want? And if you're a junior, right, the question is what you like to learn, right? In that. And there's always expectation on both sides, right? There's expectation from the employer side and there's expectation from your side, right? And if you say that, hey, this is what I want, right? And the employer thinks it's nice, right? You will get it, right? It's not about job description is just sometimes just like a advertisement, right? Like to buy something.
Right.
But is what's in there depends on you.
Yeah, that's right. I totally agree with you. Like I struggle like finding jobs as well sometimes. Like when I first moved to Berlin, I tried to find some jobs and it's actually quite difficult because most of the jobs they require German. I speak German, but like B1, just to communicate. But then eventually, like I finally found a job that, they agree with my German, and also like I learned a lot from the job as well. So yeah, job description sometimes is just, it's just like a blog. But be bold in applying. Yep. So thank you for your question. And there's another question that we have. So from Nguyễn Hà Nhi, you started your own business in Germany. So what do you think about the startup movement in Vietnam compared with the startup movement in Europe?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really, to be honest, like tell much about this startup movement in Vietnam. I see that, right? So I see that there's a lot of startups starting in Vietnam as well. But obviously, the startup movement in Europe is more, I would say, mature now than what is in Vietnam, right? Because the problem in Vietnam is still missing VC money, right? So big money, but Vietnam has the talent and actually the spirit for it, right? So this is something that you don't have here, right? But here you have the money, right? So the money is flowing, and this is something that you still misses in Vietnam. And also, for example, if we just stick to Berlin, let's say the startup area here in Berlin. Berlin is a very international city, right? So you have many different nationalities working in the startup. I would say that in Vietnam, out of 10 companies, maybe one company, right, has one foreigner, right, in this company. Vietnam definitely, if they want to, be more seen in the world, they have to become more diverse, right? So, for example, Singapore is a good spot, or like a good inspiration, right, to be a startup hub in Asia.
Yeah, I mean, just to give you a bit of context, I mean, I'm from Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City, in Vietnam, and right now actually it's one of, Can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, just to give you a bit of context, like in Ho Chi Minh City right now, like it's booming with a lot of startups as well. Like more foreigners are coming in, and like young Vietnamese, they're also like starting to get their business started in Vietnam right now. And yeah, in Berlin too. I mean, like I've been here a year, and like there's so many startups in Berlin as well. So it's like the same vibe, but I guess like you say, the money flow is something that is still lacking in Vietnam.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's also wraps up our talk today. And before we say goodbye, Dad, do you have anything to share with our audience, life hacks or advice? I mean, we talked about the recruitment from Priceloop, right? So, anything else you want to share with the audience?
No, so I mean, we're still obviously hiring. Our new website is also coming up live soon. We are growing big as a company, right? So if you know someone who would fit into the positions and be bold, right? As I said, I mean, you never know what would fit into it. And yeah, sorry for my internet. I'm not quite sure what happened today. But this is always the problem with remote sessions. You never know when things are not stable, and hopefully people could still hear what I said.
Yeah, but luckily we still managed though. I had a really good talk. So once again, thank you for your time today, and it was very insightful for me, actually coming from like a non-tech, non-business background. And I wish you all the best with your startup, and I hope to hear more exciting news from you next time. And also to our audience, thank you for spending your time listening to us today. Just follow us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and blogs and website. We'll come back next month, and have a nice weekend.
Okay, see ya. Bye.
Bye.